Today I have an ambitious plan for my Hapstone sharpener. I recently reviewed this Spyderco button-up and the blade chipped like just by me looking at it. This is very unusual for Spyderco, but I think this is a great knife to do an ambitious sharpening. We have to remove a very deep chip on the blade, and there's some smaller ones there too, so the edge has to be completely taken off. In addition to that, this has a full flat grind. With a full flat grind, only one clamp on the Spyderco specifically can find some flat area to clamp on, and the other clamp will have to be right at the edge. So some viewers expressed concerns when clamping a blade like this. Not that the sharpening task wasn't challenging enough, they also asked me to review a conversion kit to go from a basic RS system to their pro level system. And for that they supplied a precision angle adjust mast or column, and this case in which it will come. They also gave me a set of carbon boron nitride, or CBN for short, stones. This is the basic set that I'm starting with. 4 stones are in the kit, and the stropping plate as well. So here's the case that the pro level unit will come with. So with a pro set, this precision adjustment column will come in the case, but because they provided it all separately, I have it out for now. And I disassembled my basic RS unit. You see I put some of my own tooling in there. And the case is designed to accommodate either the basic or the pro level unit. Except for the plates, all my necessities fit in this unit, like this pretty sizable torque driver set. You will see why I need it when I start setting up my blade. And because I have this driver, I only need 1 Allen wrench that was provided with the original unit. Here comes the base plate, and this is our clamp bracket. This is the solid aluminum piece that mounts to the base plate and holds the clamp bracket. Here's our plate holder on the rod, and this is the non-precision adjust column. Here's my Corralata magnetic base angle finder. It's very compact and it's rechargeable. My Amazon affiliate link will be in the description, and I'm pulling out all the other pieces that get this unit taken care of, comprise the rest of the unit. To avoid the risk of losing them, I had all the fasteners threaded into the units that they actually secure. And so now I'm ready to assemble the column. And the plate is kind of on the heavy side. Through trial and error, I came up with this method. I'm going to put this nice case to good use here. And now I'm going to start attaching the column. But before I did that, I made sure that it is completely free of dust, shavings, and other debris. Now that we're getting into precisely machined parts, it's very critical to keep all the surfaces clean and free of burr that you produced during the last sharpening. And keep the hole that accommodates the angle adjustment mast to the back of the base plate, pointing outside the boundaries, I guess, the best way to put it, of the base plate. And then you start the fasteners, tighten them, and then torque them to keep the precision level up. Torque them pretty snugly. I'm gonna say 30-35 inch-pounds should suffice. You just have to fit the clamp bracket. I left those fasteners in there when I was storing the unit in the case, and also torque them as well. I can't overstress how important it is to keep the contact surfaces clean. I also want to make sure before I torque these 2 screws that the clamp bracket is engaged fully with the fasteners. And that's why I placed it on the end like this and torque them. The base plate for the clamp bracket, I use it for setting my zeros because this little Corralata fits there really well. And the reasons why I'm using this method rather than putting the angle finder on top of the cylinder where they have a magnetic plate are explained in the previous video. Here's our precision adjustment mast or column, and I believe it's a worm gear drive as opposed to straight out screw and nut system on the basic unit. Both columns use the same clamping attachment hardware. And here I'm adding a provided plate thickness adjustment ring. And it has to be fitted to the bottom of the precision angle adjustment column. And there's a set screw that you need to adjust out so that you can fit it onto the column. I have to say this system is designed to be very foolproof because there is a screw that prevents the adjustment plate move past the bottom of the column. You want it to sit flush with the bottom of the column where it actually sits on top of the nut that holds the column in. It will all make sense to you, I promise, if you're actually playing with the unit. And when you loosen the thumb screw, it's supposed to move up and down, allowing you to adjust for the plate thickness. And I estimate that the thickest plate that you will be able to use with the system will not exceed 12.5 millimeters or half an inch. And of course, if all your plates are of the same thickness, you probably don't even need to bother with the plate thickness adjustment ring. I personally use plates of various thicknesses, and that's why this was very important to me to get this part right. And I know the viewers that are familiar with this unit are screaming at me that I didn't assemble it right, and they're correct. So here's the deal. That thumb screw cannot be pointing directly back, because in that orientation the column will restrict the movement of the sharpening rod and you will not be able to sharpen the entire blade. Honest mistake here, because I was used to the other column already. That's my excuse, and you know what they say about excuses. Excuses are like dull knives. Everyone has one and they all stink. So here you go. This is the correct orientation. I really like this magnetic attachment. It was a brilliant idea on their part. A little excursion here. What looks like a screw in this column, it's actually called a worm gear because it's a gear that worms around and it engages teeth on the carriage to which the magnetic ball is attached. This is probably the most ingenious mechanism ever. It was invented by Archimedes of Syracuse in 3rd century BC. 400 years later, in the 1st century AD, Heron of Alexandria used this mechanism to design the first ever precision odometer. 1400 years later, Leonardo da Vinci has developed the concept for the enveloping worm gear, which is what you see on the Hapstone. So the question is, will this design survive another 2,000 years? Alright, back to 21st century. As you can see, without the blade in the clamps, I'm getting 39 degrees or so. And I would estimate with the blade in there, it would be 3-4 degrees fewer. This is a very obtuse angle. Probably would work for an axe if you could figure out how to clamp the axe in this device. But as I'm lowering it toward the smallest angle, I better put the blade in because that end of the spectrum is a lot more important to many people. Oh, and of course the sharpening plate needs to go in as well. Before I put the knife in the clamps, I usually wrap a rubber band around the ricasso area. And the reason for that, it serves as basically a bump stop for the sharpening plate so that I don't end up climbing up onto the ricasso when I'm sharpening. Anything can happen in the heat of the battle, and so I'm taking this precaution here. Another precaution is using the torque driver when clamping the knife. The reason for it is the clamp jaws are aluminum, so if you over torque, you potentially can bend the clamps themselves. Most likely, however, you will not strip the threads because Hapstone intelligently used stainless nut and bolt for tightening the clamps. TS Prof and Zarelk use steel screw in aluminum threads, which is an additional risk for damaging your clamps. I started with the minimum torque for this size screw being 18 inch-pounds. Because the knife was still moving, I am increasing the torque to 20 inch-pounds. I would not recommend doing it on the sharpener equipped with steel on aluminum threads. And as you can see, the knife now is solid. In all my connection, all my fasteners, they are all torqued. And now I need to verify that the blade is sitting in the clamps symmetrically from side to side. Again, you see where I'm zeroing my angle finder. I find the strip of metal on top of that cylinder not very useful. And I am getting a deviation of less 1/10 of a degree. So I am good. The knife is pretty well centered, pretty well ground. Spyderco didn't let us down. We're A-OK. I will spend next few minutes removing this nasty chip from the edge. In the basic CBN plate set, the lowest grit is 150. It's the roughest one, and that's what I'm putting on the clamp. And as you can see, I raised the angle of the sharpening to as obtuse a setting as I can possibly have on this device, because I want to remove the metal quickly and efficiently. The reason I recommend this method of edge removal over the electrically powered belt sander is because you have a lot more control this way, and you will not overheat the edge, which would defeat the initial purpose and sort of reintroduce the reason why it chipped at the first place. Notice how I did not burnish the plate, because at this angle the burnishing will be done by the removed edge itself. Saving time here. I am going to grind this side until I detect a full length burr on the opposite side of the edge. And you have to make sure you get to that point, because otherwise you may end up with an asymmetric grind, and will fight it later when you go to finer plates in order to form the edge. With HCR steel, this process is moving a lot faster than I anticipated. It's at 59 HRC. And I am also making sure that the chip is gone, and it is. And now I also detect that the tip needs a little bit more attention, so I'm going to go at it. The hardest part of any sharpening, especially with a drop point shaped blade or spear point, is forming a proper tip. And so I am taking my time here, make sure I don't have to fight it later in the sharpening. And I keep going and checking. I'm doing my due diligence here, making sure everything is continuous as far as burr goes, and my tip looks good to my liking. I deliberately did not accelerate this segment because I wanted you to see how quickly I got to where I need to be on both sides of the blade. So now I'm going the opposite side. Repeat the same process. This should go a little faster because in this orientation, all I'm looking for is the burr on the opposite side of the edge. As you can see, I'm not too shy about downward pressure on a sharpening plate. At this stage, the amount of pressure on the plate is similar to filing a piece of metal in the vise using a regular handheld file. As far as keeping the secondary bevel or the edge symmetrical from one side of the blade to the other, just keep an eye on the width. You should be able to see any differences. And now that we verified that the primary bevel is at the same angle on both sides of the blade, the width of the secondary bevel will tell you how symmetrically you are grinding. If you prefer a different approach to your process, please share it in the comments. We'll all benefit from it. And this whole process took about 3.5 minutes, even with stopping and talking. Last check on the burr, it's on this side now. And now I am at the point where I need to stop and consider what I'm going to use to form the new edge. And hopefully you're at the point where you're hitting a like and subscribing to my channel if you're not a subscriber yet. You see, Hapstone provided me yet another toy. Let me show you. And this is a device that supposedly will allow us to form a convex edge. I believe it comes with a Pro set, but I'm pretty sure you can purchase it separately on their website. I will talk about advantages and disadvantages of convex edge, but for now this is what it looks like. And what it looks like, they gave us 2.3, 4.6, and 7 degree setting, which then would have to be blended, I guess, to form a convex edge. Pretty simple, straightforward. So why not we go ahead and try to use it, because this blade is a perfect candidate for convex edge. HCR heat treated to over 59 HRC starts getting a little chippy, so a little bit of an extra support behind the edge shouldn't hurt. To install it, I have to partially disassemble the plate holder assembly by removing the front clamp. And a little confusion here, you have to put it toward your handle ball like this and then screw it back together. That's how simple is the replacement. And because they have a 0 degree setting, you don't actually have to do it every time you're trying to put a convex edge on it. There's a very fine thread, so be very, very careful when you're starting the rod in the threads. Very, very easy to mess up this steel to aluminum connection, but if you exercise due diligence, nothing bad should happen. This is a great rule to adopt in your life, unless you are an arena prize fighter. And another great rule is tip your favorite YouTubers through Super Thanks or join their monthly membership for a very, very low fee. This way you will not only enjoy their videos, but you will support channels that you like watching. Google, that owns YouTube, is a very poor company, and so they only pay YouTubers $4 for each thousands of views they generate, while charging companies a huge amount for placing the commercials. So I'm setting the plate to 4.6 degrees on the device, and then I am going to adjust the rod angle to my desired initial 20 degrees or so. I really enjoy using this precision adjustment column because this worm gear mechanism is very smooth. It moves a little bit slower than the basic mechanism on the basic column, but that allows my correlata angle finder to catch up with the angle because there's a little bit latency on this angle finder. And because of all that, this process allows me time to think, time to focus, and all in all, this makes it a more enjoyable sharpening experience. And so here I am at 21 degrees precisely. And so I'm about to start sharpening the blade, making a first pass. As it turns out, I should have started at a shallower or more acute angle on the plate holder, because this way I'm removing too much metal too fast from the apex. But that may be a topic for the next video. For now, I would recommend you procure this jeweler's binocular, because when you're working with several bevels simultaneously forming this apex edge, it is very helpful to have a very close look at what you're doing. I know it looks goofy, but I highly recommend. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again for watching, and the next video will come out very, very soon, so please don't forget to hit the notification bell.